How is our little gorgeous? Is she well?
Yes. Oh, she's so.
All right, so I'm going to press live now. Just give me a moment, I'll introduce you and we'll go from there. I always say this, and even though it says, live on Facebook, I like to make sure to check, because goodness, imagine if one day it says live on Facebook, but then it's actually not there. I would be crying because these stories are way too beautiful and way too precious not to share. So we are indeed live on Facebook, and welcome everybody, and welcome lovely Rebecca. Thank you so much for choosing to come and share your story and to let us know more about your journey. And we've created this series of creation stories for people to be able to come in and share the hope that they received, when they first embarked upon this journey with us, and certainly embarked upon this journey on the Fertility Breakthrough program. And I wanted to just welcome you. Your story is one that's so close to my heart for so many reasons. We've been on this journey together for a long time. As I always say to our patients, we are in each other's lives for a while. And if you get one of my babies, it's forever. And this is certainly the case. And, your story is beautiful on many, many levels. And so I'm so excited that you're here with us today to share. So tell us a little bit more what happened for you.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Gabriella, for having me here. It's an honour to be able to share my story for the people watching today and listening. Yes, so I am a single lady, a proud single lady who didn't actually find Mr. Right. I haven't ruled that out for the future, but prior to wanting to become a mama, it didn't happen for me. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and become a solo mother by choice. And I was going to access an IVF bank to find myself a lovely, generous sperm donor, and I was going to become a mum. So that was my very, very beginning. And then, unfortunately, I've had some hurdles with my health that I wasn't anticipating. I was 37 at the time, so getting up there in age. And
Rebecca, one thing and I'm so sorry to interrupt you here, but I just love the fact that, you knew what you wanted. And this is one of the hallmarks of you, by the way. And, as you share your story, people will also get a very clear sense that you knew what you wanted. But, meeting you I always had this amazing sense of like, okay, this woman knows what she wants and she knows that she's going to work to get it. And, for me, that's one of the biggest and most privileged positions that I find myself in as a clinician, to be able to guide and support people like you. But what I think is wonderful about your situation is that you just basically decided that, okay, I'm not going to wait and allow life circumstances to dictate what I'm going to create in my life, and I'm going to go and do it, irrespective of whether I find a partner or not, which you are braver than me. I say this to all of the beautiful single women who decide to go and have a baby on their own, because it is a huge decision, but also it's a decision that a lot of people, and I know this for a fact because people talk to me about this who are in a similar situation to you, to say, gosh, how do I know? Should I really pursue this? And if so, to what degree? People are very tentative sometimes, in kind of thinking or knowing what it is that they want. They will kind of dabble and they'll go, if it works out, then I'll do that. And you never did that. Like, you were just so clear, and I love that.
It's funny you should say that, because one of the first appointments that I had with my IVF doctor was, I asked her the question about, and if I am too old and my eggs are no longer viable, what does this particular clinic offer in the way of egg donations? And she shot me down and she goes, you haven't even had it. You haven't even given me, the doctor, you haven't even given me a chance yet. And I was like, no. If it doesn't work out, I need to get my head into that next step, because I will flip every stone. And if that's what it takes, then I'm ready. And she wouldn't even engage me in that conversation, which I thought was, well, she didn't know me and she didn't know how thorough I am. But yeah, so so they have a term for women that choose to have a baby by themselves. It's not a particularly endearing term. It's called socially infertile. So I became inducted in the socially infertile category. And then it turns out I was medically infertile in many, many ways beyond my wildest dreams. And absolutely devastated to find out that I had blocked fallopian tubes from scar tissue resulting from endometriosis that was undetectable initially. And I had fibroids in my uterus wall, the size of golf balls. I had 3 of those. So I'd actually been told when I was 21 and had a gynecological exam for something else. I was told when I was 21, you're going to have difficulty maintaining a pregnancy or falling pregnant because of the position of these fibroids. So she goes, you might never have your own kids. I put that out of my head because I was like, rubbish, of course I'm going to have my own kids. I thought and believed, like a lot of other people, that pregnancy would be easy for me. So it turns out it was not. And so I started to do exploratory surgery where, where'd I go? Am I there?
You're back. You're back now. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm still plugged into the car. Yeah, sorry, I am in the car, people. I'm sitting by the side of the road in the rain. Beautiful. So
This is the level of commitment.
Yeah, for sure. So I had various procedures completed, health procedures to try to. I had a IVF surgeon complete search for endometriosis and found out that yes, the fallopian tubes were very, very blocked. With scar tissue weren't going to be able to be repaired. That there was no endometriosis, which I couldn't believe because I'd had terrible painful periods my whole life, and these blocked fallopian tubes. But nevertheless, I made a big mistake at that time, and when you know better, you do better. And I believed that the fertility specialists in the clinics were the be-all and the end-all. I surrendered myself with trust to them, not realising what I then came to learn throughout my long 5-year fertility journey, that if I wasn't the best advocate for myself and my health, then I was never going to be able to have a baby. However, it's very easy to say, oh yes, I'm going to be the best advocate for my health, but if you don't know how to do that, or you don't know what you need to do, then you might as well just trust the IVF doctors. But I knew there was something else. And that's when I stumbled across the Fertility Challenge program and was able to.
And at that stage as well, I mean, gosh, you had already had such a long journey before you arrived to the Fertility Challenge program because, you know, you had found out previously, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but, you know, one of the things that you had found out was that your antral follicle count was low, that there was low AMH. You know, you had put it to me that, you know, the doctors had said that at 37, you had the fertility of, you know, somebody in their over 40s kind of category. And so, you know, there was a lot to digest in those early meetings and early discussions throughout your journey.
Yes, absolutely, Gabriella. Yeah, I wasn't just socially infertile. I felt barren. I felt like I just felt like a barren spinster. Every which way I was told there was another reason why I potentially wasn't going to be able to have a child. And then to find out again after all of that, I didn't even have any suitable eggs potentially. I was just, okay, are you kidding me? I just want to hold this beautiful baby and grow a family with this child. And anyway, so I did 4 cycles with my own eggs. Desperate as I was, I did the acupuncture along with that. As like before the transfer and after the transfer, I had an early miscarriage with my own eggs. I had, after 4 cycles as a solo person, and I should mention too that at 37, when I knew that I had been bombarded with these different ways that I was infertile, the blocked fallopian tubes, the low egg count, the uterine fibroids, the socially
the lack of men.
The socially infertile. I was like, oh my God, I can't afford IVF. I can't afford that. And I'm as infertile as a 40-something-year-old lady. I might need a lot of IVF. So I switched jobs. So I found courage and bravery, and I went from I went for like a full-on senior management position, from like being down the bottom there. I work in education, so I went from being a school teacher to a senior management working for state office, and I got it. And I got a $40,000 pay rise. $40,000 just for submitting an application and being brave.
Just for going, that's it, I'm doing it. But isn't it amazing too? You know, like often it's so easy for us to look down on the challenges and the drawbacks of infertility. But, you know, it's amazing also when we take the opportunity to look at, okay, but what are the things that I have gained as a result of this? And you know, sometimes
love that job too.
Well, see, that's the thing, isn't it? And it probably would not have gone for it because of all sorts of feelings of inadequacy, or maybe I can't, who am I, you know? But when you have an absolute goal and a purpose and you're like, okay, I have to make this happen, and then you have to figure out how, get out of a woman's way, right?
Yeah. So every single cent I earned would go on travel because I live regional Australia. Anyway, so once the 4 cycles were unsuccessful, I knew that I had to get donor eggs. Now, the IVF doctor there, I've seen a lot of them in different states over my journey, and they were like, always want to just keep trying the same thing over and over again, where I absolutely refused that. I suspected certain other problems with my health. I believed that I was showing signs of having an autoimmune reproductive disorder called natural killer cells, but at that time the specialists were like, no, it doesn't exist, it's in your head.
It's still like that, by the way. In a lot of places around the world, it's still very unrecognized, and certainly untreated for the most part.
Yeah, so for those that have never even heard of it, there are at the point of my IVF, there's only 3 doctors in Australia that have devoted their career to reproductive autoimmune problems, and this is one of their specialty areas. So I decided to get an egg donor. That in Australia is an altruistic process. They must give you their eggs, and you pay for medical expenses. So I was blown away when this beautiful lady Amy offered her eggs, answered an ad that I'd put out, and we ended up doing 2 cycles of IVF together and 4 transfers. I got pregnant with little twinnies, and unfortunately lost those babies as well. So that's the three babies of mine that had died. So I knew that this natural killer cell was a pathway that I had to take. As well, I also had to get these fibroids looked at. So again, when you're learning to be your best advocate, you don't just settle for Joe Blow IVF specialist down the road. You find the best, and you save up really hard. So I got the best surgeon, who I believe to be the best, to operate on my fibroids, and he was able to take those out. I got the best surgeon to operate on my uterus, to do a biopsy, to find out whether or not I had natural killer cells. I did, and then I used the remaining, so I went on a protocol for that, along with another IVF transfer, and unfortunately the embryos weren't able to even embed, so they passed away quite early on. So, but I knew that I was onto something. I knew I needed something else, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And then I was in hospital recovering from one of the surgeries, one of many IVF-related surgeries. And I was scrolling on Facebook, and I came across the Fertility Challenge program, and I was like glued to this. I glued to this program, and I was originally watching it like going, no. And then I watched the video. That's possible. I watched the video of you, Gabriella, where you mentioned you had your own struggles, and I was like, oh, she knows. She knows this deep desire, the passion and the tenacity and the commitment that you have, Gabriella, to help women have babies. I was like, right, I'm going to give her a call. So I did. A couple of months after recovering from the surgery, I called you up and I explained that I strongly believed I was missing something. I didn't realize at the time how much I was missing. And so what I gained from your program was more than I ever could have realized in the challenge that was there to be gained. And some of those things for me, and I feel it in my heart. As a solo person, I needed a companion to join me on this journey. But that companion came in a way that I would never have known. You can't know this on paper, but the program, yourself, my practitioners that were devoted to my care held me. You held me in an embrace of consistency, security, knowledge, perseverance. You held me up on those days when I was lost and overwhelmed and grief-stricken. Grief has been a major part of my journey. Grieving the unsuccessful, you know, I have 16 embryos that have passed away, and each one of those I've named and loved and hoped for. And so grief is a big part of my journey, but the program gave me, for someone like me who is very goal orientated and completely love having tasks along the way, task focused, goal orientated, the steps, I could do this. And when I spoke to you on the phone, I knew that I wasn't going to just do the program, I was going to do the program.
Yeah, you were like there. Yep. You were ready.
I was ready. It was the right time for me. I arranged my leave so that I could take two. So so my new job, the big IVF money payer job. I had to work year round. It was like an office job. So I took spontaneous leave. I took 2 weeks leave over the course of one of the fertility challenges that you were running, and every day I was on task. And then I gave myself the following month to tidy up loose ends and help secure some habits that I was finding quite difficult. But yeah, so the program gave me spiritual guidance with regards to to be specific, the Miracle Morning, the program that is often running for those of us that have signed up to a program. That absolutely changed my life. And knowing that there are other women through the program and other men that were doing it as well, there's something incredibly powerful of people doing something at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just, you know, supporting each other.
Yeah. So I went and found, I had a theory that and I spoke to my beautiful donor about this, my egg donor, in the first counselling session. I said, if it ultimately doesn't work, I have to find a new egg donor because I have to keep changing the equation. There's nothing personal. So she totally understood, and we've become very, 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 very best friends today. So I'm so lucky that I have her in my life. So I found another egg donor through the same forum. Another lady offered, and but the difference was I'd had all of that surgery recently done 3 months before the transfer. I'd been on the Gabriella's Fertility Challenge program for however long I'd been on. I was held, I was loved, I was cared for by the program. I was safe. And I went into that transfer with my new egg donor and my new anonymous sperm, and I had a little embryo transferred, and it worked. And I became a mum.
It's, you know, like, honestly, you saying those words, you know, it's amazing, because when we get to that point, it feels like, oh, that was so quick, so easy, right? It was just so straightforward. But really, when we look at it, before you actually had started the program, you had already had 4 failed donor egg cycles, and it wasn't even the previous IVF that you had already done. You know, it was really looking, you know, we had to obviously dig so deep into figuring out what are the factors that are getting in the way, what are the things that and this is the difference. And often people ask me, what's the difference between the Fertility Challenge and the Fertility Breakthrough program? You know, the Fertility Challenges are wonderful, and I would love to get your take on this and see if you agree. But, you know, the Fertility Challenge, the way that I see it, because obviously I've created it and I've put it together to be an educational process to help people understand that, yes, there is more they can do. And yes, you know, they can actually take charge of their results and whatever hasn't happened for them. And it's very focused on implementation of immediate lifestyle adjustments that people can make themselves to optimize their health and optimize their fertility. But it is, as I like to call it, education en masse. You know, it's certainly not treatment. It's certainly not what the Fertility Breakthrough Program offers, which is really in-depth treatment, looking at the root causes of biochemical imbalances that are leading to the result that we're seeing, whether it's infertility, recurrent miscarriage, implantation failure. You know, these are outcomes at the end of the day. They are a result of a biochemical chain reaction that starts all the way up here. And usually people go through and proceed to a point of unexplained, you know, infertility, unexplained miscarriage, unexplained whatever it is that's going on. They don't really know why they're not able to transition from start to completion of a different outcome that they would like to create. And so the big difference there becomes the fact that we then have to dig so deep, you know, and part of what we had to do for you was really to figure out, because of course we knew that we had some of the physical constraining factors, which was endometriosis, fibroids, but then we had to look at what are all of the biochemical pieces that not only have led to that, but also that could be impacting what's going on here. Immunological aspects, of course, are a big one that we had to address for you, and we had to do a lot of work around that. But, you know, the interesting thing, and it comes to, you know, the conversation begins certainly in the fertility challenge level, understanding what the minor factors might be, you know, what are some of the obstacles to optimum fertility. But until we really get deep into understanding what they are, and most importantly, what do we need to do about them? Because it's exactly what you said before, Rebecca. You know, often, you know, there's more intrinsically, deep down, you know that you could be doing more and that there is more, but you don't know what is that more, right? And then you're like so lost and thinking, okay, I'm going to do all of these things. And it's the diagram that I often show, and yours looks a little bit different because this is a whole, you know, this is not a partner, this is a whole tribe. You know, you had a whole... Yeah, absolutely. You had a whole tribe supporting you there. But, you know, what ends up happening is that so many people run around in circles until, unfortunately for many, particularly those in your situation, you're low antral follicle count, low AMH, and, you know, some people choose that they don't want to do donor egg or whatever else, but they run out of time here rather than, you know, walking towards the direction that they want to be. So it's fascinating to me that you know, for me, what I find interesting about you and your story is that clearly you were so driven about what it is that you wanted to create. You knew you wanted to create a family, but you also took action in that, you know, which is, and you took really directive action that was self-initiated to begin with, and then obviously with the extra support. But I want to know, like, what is it that kept you going? Like, what is it that kept you really, like, deep down going for this, despite the fact that it was hard, despite the fact that you've, you know, in your mind lacked some of the resources and you know, things that you needed, but obviously you figured out how you were going to do it in the end. But what was the thing that really kind of made you decide, yes, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to do?
I always wanted to be a mother. I knew that I would make a beautiful mother and be able to provide a child with a life that is maybe a bit different to mainstream life. I wanted to, for those that know about educational philosophies, Maria Montessori, Steiner, Reggio Emilio, those philosophies of education and raising children and living as much outside and caring and empathy and kindness. I knew I have this in me to give. So I always wanted to become a mother. I originally imagined I'd have lots and lots of children and I'd be surrounded by children, but I'm just happy with my little one now.
Well, and you know, in one way or another, you were, you know, it's like you fulfilled your contracts to all of those little embryos, and you know, you certainly desired enough to be able to have them. But it's beautiful. I think that it's such a...
I'll finish answering the other one. Sorry to cut you off there, but it's that what kept me going on the program. I know there was something that kept me going, and it was that once. So as you said before, the fertility challenge is very educational, and you can take those and no one judges you except yourself on what your measure of commitment is. That's up to you. But the program, you believed in me, And there are so many people in my world, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, that they get a lot of responses. This is them. They go, oh, I'd love to have a baby one day. I'm trying really hard to have a baby. And those people around going, oh, good for you. That's really cool. But no, you and your team of phenomenal practitioners held me and believed with me. And that is powerful beyond belief, because not having a significant other, socially infertile, there wasn't anyone that believed in this as much as me until I met you. And you right then on that first phone conversation, I knew that we were kindred spirits, Gabriella.
I always say, I always say to patients that, if you don't like me now, you probably should not join the program. because we are going to be a part of each other's lives for a long time,
Yeah, and the program is in depth, and it's in depth, and it covers a lot of stuff, and but it does it. This is a good word for it, unwavering. And that when you're solo going through this, to have someone that is as equally unwavering in the goal of a family, that I don't have anyone that's unwavering in my life until I met you and your beautiful face.
Amazing. It's lovely to hear you say that, because one of the reasons, and people ask me often, wow, how come your program has such a high success rate, has such a high live birth rate? We've recently done a retrospective analysis of our patient cases, and it came up with a 78.15% live birth rate. And I often say, the truth, the absolute truth is selection bias, right? We choose people who, and by choosing, people self-select, really. We put the framework in place for people to be able to kind of see, do they align with what it is that we need to have happen in order to be able to actually have a result. And then, of course, I go and I assess the case to figure out, there's 2 questions I ask. The first question is there work to be done? We're not the clinic that people come to when they've been trying for 2 minutes. That's just not us, right? Then the second question, is it work we can do? Because again, sometimes I have people, and I say this all the time, people come to me and they say, I've got 2 blocked fallopian tubes, Gabriella, but I will absolutely never do IVF. I'm like, I haven't yet quite figured out the immaculate conception piece either. So we have to have a different conversation, right? And then thirdly, it's have we done it before in a similar set of circumstances? Because if we haven't, my patients you guys, have shown me that it doesn't mean that we shouldn't work together. In fact, there are people who made me take them on board of the program. You will know a couple of them. And that at the time I was really like, I don't think that we can help. But, we went ahead and we did all the things that we needed to do. And of course, we got the result that we wanted. But I always have one thing that I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want to waste people's energy, money, time, resources in general. And I certainly do not want to get people's hopes up, right? And with the situation of, let's build hope and let it be destroyed. I'm very, very direct, as you know, Rebecca, but the key thing is that I look at it systematically, methodically, and very scientifically. It's can we make a difference to this particular set of biochemical pathways that we need to make a difference for in this person? Or do I need to have a different discussion with this person? Would you consider this, or would you consider that, or would you consider whatever else, to figure out, are we a good fit for working together? And then most importantly, of course, especially when we're treating 2 people, are they both on the same page? Because when it's you, even though you don't have necessarily the support, you also don't have necessarily the detractor factor, of having a partner who's not on board, who doesn't want the same things as you want, and who is not willing to do the things that are going to make a difference. And so, as part of our program, I have to assess all of these things beforehand so that we can realistically answer the question, how likely are we to get a baby out of this situation? Because I'll be honest, if I'm not likely to get a baby out of that situation, I want to have that conversation with that person or that couple at the outset so that we understand. Because ultimately, I don't want people thinking that they're going to invest time, energy, money, whatever, and end up with, you know, a result that's not what they were looking for. But I also don't want people to think that it's easy and that they're just going to pay the money and it's going to be done for them, because as we know, it is not easy. And there's not, you know, I wish that I could pay people to go and do my exercise and to go and, you know, do the healthy eating for me whilst I could eat junk food. You know, I wish that that was a thing, but unfortunately it ain't a thing. You know, I have to do all those things myself. And so, you know, being able to have that understanding from everyone involved, are we in alignment with doing what it takes to get to the result? Because this is the thing, right? What it takes to get to that journey is going on that path. If we're not, and of course, every person's path is different, but you know, they all kind of go in that direction. They don't go in that direction, right? And so if they're kind of all going in that direction, are we actually likely to be able to walk in the same direction together? Because if not, then we need to think of other things and other ways that perhaps it could, you know, it could be different. What I would love to do, Rebecca, is, you know, I know that you are also in this group and that you so generously have agreed to answer any questions if people have any questions of you. So, you know, and this I'm sure is, you know, available now as people could tag you. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll be able to.
So underneath the video.
Yeah, if I could add something else that I thought of, and of course my mind's going to be buzzing all afternoon with things. Oh, I should have said that. But I wanted to say something that I could never have got outside of the program, is that opportunity to investigate myself at a much deeper level. So the things that I've learned about myself and the positive changes that I've had to make as a new parent or as a person who was facing the challenges of infertility, but the things that I've learned through the book club that you offer in your program have been mind blowing. So people that are considering joining up, that, you know, that can be confronting for some people. But the beauty of the program is that it's essentially an invitation to explore these deeper parts of yourself. But for anyone that's I just want to encourage people to really consider doing that, because you open up little wormholes that you didn't know that you had, that can be treated with tender love and care through your own changing mindset or through the discussions that come from that. So yeah, that's something else that has and still is impacting my life. I follow along and I do read the books. I'm not at the book clubs as often anymore, of course, but I'm still daily making changes and thinking and reflecting back. So your program offers self-reflection, and people should jump on that one. Be brave, dig in there. You find some incredible, enlightened sort of thinking about this journey and how you can approach it.
Rebecca, I actually meant to say, and this is one of the things, and thank you for reminding me about this, because book club, you know, people often, we've had several patients come and tell their stories, and people often refer to book club, you know, and we've had a conversation with another couple, I think it was, about them talking. I often hear this, and it's just not even in these conversations, just in general conversations that I have with patients, how much they enjoy the personal development aspect of the program, and specifically mentioning book club. And book club is so special to me, and you know, I am so grateful to you and the other founding member of book club, because I remember that, you know, when it was an idea that I wanted to pursue, and I just didn't have all of the time and energy that I, you know, needed to be able to pursue it. And you and Susan and Claudette all came to the fore and said, hey, you know what, we will help you. And we were founding members of this book club that is now, I think we've had 50 meetings.
Yeah,
in book club, haven't we? Yeah. So I think we've now done 50 different books, and it happens once a month. And people, you know, in the program, and I often say to patients in the program, like, come to book club. Book club is one of the most amazing things. And patients say this to me all the time. So I agree with you completely. But I wanted to say thank you, because you were an integral part of being able to not only make it happen, but to create the transformation that I know is so deep for so many people who pass through and who, you know, engage in the Fertility Breakthrough program through that one of the very many mediums that we utilize for personal development and growth and self-transformation. And if it wasn't for you, my darling, it would have never happened.
Oh, thank you for trusting me with that. Oh, what a joy that was.
I'm so grateful.
Years, because it's been happening for years. But you led an emotional therapy session once, emotional release therapy session, and I remember sitting in my car because I needed private space, so I left my office and I came and sat in my car and was bawling my eyes out, and I still, 5 years later, whatever it is, I still think about how that one session, many sessions, of course, but that particular one changed me. I stopped stressing about something that I used to stress about, but I have to get ready to go soon because a little somebody's waiting for me.
You go, my darling, you go. So here you are with a beautiful, beautiful child who is not part of it's not one of our special guests today, but we'll put a video together and we'll put a beautiful photo of Sarah. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, not only for sharing here so beautifully and, you know, eloquently, but for all of your contribution to me personally, because I grow with my beautiful patients, and you have made an incredible contribution to my life, to my role as a clinician, but also, you know, have become a beautiful friend that I am so grateful to be able to have in my life. So thank you. And like I said, if people want to ask questions of Rebecca and want to know anything that what it's like to have a baby on your own, how she made the decisions, and anything else in between, I'm sure Rebecca's incredibly great, you know, generous in being able to share.
Anything at all, anything at all, ask me. There's nothing too hard or too personal at all. I'm such an advocate for solo parents by choice, and I'm such an advocate of people who are prepared to move those goalposts, flip that stone, but yet to take that desire you've got for a baby, and if you're fortunate enough to channel it with Gabriella by your side, then you'll be on the right pathway.
Thank you, my love. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. My love to Sarah. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye for now.